Serial killers that are on the loose today, lock in, chat.
Serial killers that are still on the loose. According to the FBI, there could be up to 50 active serial killers in the United States right now. That's
Holy shit. That is crazy. That is insane. I don't know if you guys are registering that, but that's like, that's insane. And that's for like every like Mississippi that there are too. So like that's one every like what, like 750,000 people. There cannot be more than like 700,000 people living in North Dakota. Actually, no. Yes, there definitely can be. I have no idea, but that's still a lot. That's still a scary amount.
It's literally one serial killer for every state in the United States.
Exactly.
For this year's Halloween special, I knew I wanted to talk about serial killers, but I also knew I wanted to make it
kind of missed the boat on Halloween. It is December 20th, but that's fine. It's not so bad.
extra creepy, which is why I wanted to discuss not serial killers who we all know and have been put to jail or put to death. I wanted to discuss serial killers that are currently active or still on the loose to this day. Being on the loose and being active are two different things, which is why this video is a bit of a double feature. I'm gonna start by going through every serial killer who's still
True, because you could be like, you could kill 3 people and then be like, just go hide out in a cabin in the woods for the rest of your life, and you'd still be technically on the loose. But if you kill 3 people and then continue to kill people every month, that's being active. So there's a difference. And then there's like a threshold for being active and just being like bored of it. But I don't know what that threshold is.
Among Us. And then I'm going to build up to not only serial killers who are on the loose, but are also on the loose and active to this very day. So without further ado, let's talk about killers that could technically kill you. The I-70 killer. The year is 1992. You are the manager working at a local shoe store, and you've just began your shift. Today was like any other day. You were alone in the store, and the store was quiet. That was...
Here's a question. Do you think you would be able to kill someone, chat? Yeah? You think you would? No, there's no way. There's no fucking way maybe. Depends what the reward is. If it's like, kill somebody just to kill somebody, like if it's a saw trap, I definitely easily could. I could easily kill another person to save my life. Fuck yes. I know a couple people that say they wouldn't, like, they couldn't kill another person for their own life, and I think that's fucking stupid. Like, I think if you're if you're in the reverse bear trap situation in the first Saw movie, you're easily macheting up that little guy. Like, not little guy, he's pretty big actually, but like, so easily. Oh my god, you're so easily taking the life of another before you're taking your own life. Not even taking your own life, just somebody else killing you before you kill somebody else. But if it's like for 10 grand, I don't think I could kill someone for 10 grand.
Peculiar looking man walked in. He enters the store looking directly at you and doesn't say much, although he asks you if you could find something for him in the back. You oblige and walk in the back, only to realize you've been followed. And before you can understand what's going on, you hear the click of a gun and your life flashes. Unfortunately, that is a real...
That'd be loud as fuck. There's no way. He's gotta be doing this, like, middle of the night for nobody to notice. Just a gunshot going off in, like, a suburb.
Of one of the victims of the I-70 killer. And this victim was one of many. The I-70 killer is named after the I-70 highway because every single one of the murders attributed to him has taken place only a few miles off of the highway. For those unfamiliar, the I-70 highway is one of the longest interstates or highways in the entire United States and runs from Utah to Maryland. That alone is an interesting fact we'll get into later, but more on the killer himself. It's believed that the I-70 killer was most active from 92 until 94, although murders as recently as 2001 have also been attributed to him. Very little is known about the I-70 killer, and every murder that is associated with him.
So how do they know what he looks like? Like how did they know he's a peculiar man? It's like, that's what I'm saying. Because how do you get close enough? Unless it's like, there's so many people in that shoe store and he just takes them back, but then if he shoots them, there's gonna be a gunshot. I'm not really sure about that. Maybe I found a loophole. Maybe they're just too dumb to see it. You know?
Is because of the extremely consistent methodology this man used. Almost every victim of the I-70 killer follows the same criteria. The victim was a woman working alone in a retail location only a few miles off the I-70 highway and was nearly clinically executed with a 22mm bullet to...
Save up to 60% at Mark's This Is Big Event on now.
So annoying.
bullet to the back of the head. Now,
Oh my god, my friends and I were just talking about this. I just got proved wrong. We were talking about how would a 22 be able to actually kill you if it was if you shot with a 22 right in the skull, would it kill you? And I said no, because a 22, no, because a 22 is like it's like this. It's like the size of your like thumbnail. They're so small. Oh my god, dude. Fuck. Whatever.
Interestingly, all of the murders attributed to the I-70 killer showed little to no signs of assault or robbery after the murder took place, meaning that this killer likely killed
So he's just doing it for funsies? Okay.
simply for the satisfaction of killing, which is just more evidence in case you weren't convinced that this person was twisted already. Now, it's important to note that there are a few murders from the I-70 killer that are a bit unorthodox. Specifically, a few murders that involved male victims, as well as a situation where two people were murdered at the same time, which was the first and only time that happened. And it's theorized by authorities that the I-70 killer believed one of the employees was alone, when in reality the employee and store owner were both present at the location.
Nope, not gonna make that joke.
And the I-70 killer decided to kill both of these people. As of today, there's believed to be anywhere from 6 to over 9 killings attributed to the I-70 killer.
Holy
and interestingly, with these murders taking place relatively recently, and the sheer volume of murders that took place,
What constitutes as a serial killer? Because if you kill two people, are you like what? We should Google that. What makes you a serial killer? A person becomes a serial killer due to a complex and varying combination of genetic predispositions, environment. No. How many people do you have to kill to become a serial killer? People do you need to kill to be considered a serial killer? To be classified as a serial killer, a person generally needs to murder 3 or more people in separate incidents over time with a cooling off period between killings. Okay. Driven by psychological gratification, unlike mass murderers who kill many at once or spree killers who kill in multiple locations without breaks. Okay.
there is quite a bit of evidence and information taking place. But interestingly, even with technology that existed at the time, which was only the early 90s, and the technology that exists today, which is way more advanced, there is still absolutely no clue as to who the I-70 killer could be. And all we have are a few artist depictions based off of a few eyewitness accounts. My mind is still a bit blown.
Damn.
With over 6 active crime scenes that have all been extremely consistent in a relatively modern time period, we still have no real information, and it doesn't look like we're ever going to get anytime soon. And for people who claim to have seen the I-70 killer, they said that they saw a skinny white man, roughly 5'7" to 5'9", in their 20s to 30s at the time. Authorities across the United States are still actively searching for the true identity of the I-70 killer to finally bring him to justice. And today, investigators believe that the I-70
And like you could have seen this dude, like just walking to about your 9 to 5, you could have seen this dude.
70 killer is likely between the ages of 52 and 70, meaning that it's extremely likely that he's still alive and roaming the streets today. Although it's believed that he's either retired from killing or simply changed his methods so his new murders cannot be attributed to his now infamous persona. The I-70 killer wasn't the only killer of this kind. There's also an I-70 strangler and an I-65 killer, but even those aren't all of them. And in a press release, the FBI has even stated explicitly that a disproportionate amount of murderers and serial killers have been truck drivers, simply because their lifestyle is so conducive for serial killing. They're consistently traveling city to city. They're hanging out in locations that are relatively temporary, rest stops, gas stations, and they always have a reason to be going somewhere. And truck drivers and trucks, for the most part, kind of fly under the radar. In regards to the I-70 killer specifically, the authorities don't know what his occupation was.
True, because ain't nobody pulling over a truck driver just because like it's just out of respect. It's like what you wouldn't in like the backcountry of Manitoba, you wouldn't pull over a kid driving a car just because of the principle, because it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's just like not fun or just not the right thing to do, I guess.
But they do believe that he
that's
was
a
either a
dumb
truck driver,
reason.
a drifter, or somebody who traveled on I-70 frequently for work. So I guess all I can say is, if you're traveling on I-70 and see a man who looks something like this, keep your distance. The Eastbound Strangler. The year is 2006. You and your dog are staying in a cheap motel outside of Atlantic City because you've fallen on pretty hard times. And you decide to go out for your daily walk. You walk your dog on the usual
Atlantic City, so great. I'm gonna go gamble. Yeah, lose all your money.
route around the motel.
Everything
you
you've
notice that the
ever
dog is
owned.
particularly inquisitive about something behind the motel. He keeps trying to draw you down to this drainage ditch, and while you're unwilling to go down there, you figure something suspicious is going on. You get back to your room and inform police, and after they arrive, they knock on your door and tell you that what you called them about was extremely concerning, and what was found in that drainage ditch was extremely disturbing. Inside that drainage ditch laid 4 dead women.
Holy
All
shit.
of the women that were found in this ditch were identified as sex workers in the area. And all of these
Oh,
women
yeah.
were laid extremely methodically. These women were all face down in the drainage ditch, roughly 6 feet apart from each other. All of their heads were pointed eastbound, and all of them were fully clothed except for having their socks and shoes removed.
Okay, buddy.
And all of them were strangled to death. The way that these women were killed and the way that their bodies were found is, of course, where the relatively twisted name of Eastbound Strangler came from. Now, basically everything I've just told you is almost everything that's currently known about the Eastbound Strangler. And unfortunately, that kind of just comes with the territory when you're talking about serial killers that are still on the loose. They're on the loose for a reason, and that's because not much is known, or at least not enough to find them, let alone convict them. And unfortunately, this leaves a lot of room to speculation. And I would argue that if this serial killer was at least strong enough to strangle and move the bodies of 4 women into a ditch, then it's likely that they weren't extremely old when these killings took place. And because these killings took place only 19 years ago, I would say it's very likely that whoever killed these 6 women is still alive today and possibly still active, because all of these 4 murders were only linked together because all of the bodies were found in the same place. But if this killer decided to just go in any other place in the country and kill somebody in any other way, well, nobody's going to really suspect the Eastbound Strangler, the Jeff Davis 8. Fortunately, the Jeff Davis 8 situation does have quite a bit of information surrounding it. However, this information, while not only...
Because it's really hard to comment on, especially as this guy, on something where it's like, 4 bodies were found, laid face down with their heads eastbound. That also brings up that they were all sex workers, so hookers. It's just like how that puts you in such a dangerous position, and why it's illegal is because, like, that's hard because it's illegal for a good reason, because you should never sell your body. You should never have to do that. Yeah, you should never have to sell your body. That is never a good thing. And they're only doing it because they're desperate and using the money to buy something that makes them more desperate. But it's also, now that it's illegal, once the prostitute is already doing something illegal, I think it makes it a lot easier for people to do illegal things to them, like sexually assault them or murder them or do anything else, just because of just their nature. And like, it's why like drug dealers are killed a lot of the time, is because they're already doing something illegal, that even if you kill them, it doesn't matter because they're already doing something illegal in the first place, so they're already hidden. They already have a fake alias, so it doesn't matter. So yeah.
Setting only leads to more questions than answers.
Just a really shitty situation to be in if you're just desperate to sell your body. Just don't ever do that.
The Jeff Davis 8, or the Jennings 8, refers to a series of murders that took place between 2005 and 2009 in the small town of Jennings, Louisiana. All 8 of the Jeff Davis 8 victims were women. But more interestingly than that, they were also connected to each other. Not only did they all live in similar circumstances of being young women struggling with poverty, drug use, and prostitution, but they also literally...
Drug use and prostitution. There we are. You prostitute, and then you take drugs, and then you go into debt, and then you need to sell your body, and then you take drugs, and they put you more into debt. You can't work. It's a vicious cycle. Don't ever take drugs or prostitute.
In this case were also police informants, and some of these informants even ratted on each other to the same police station. And police station is something we'll discuss just in a sec. All 8 of these women were killed in similar ways and dumped in similar locations, with the murder methods used being strangulation, suffocation, or drowning. And the areas these bodies were dumped were either in swamps or canals in remote areas outside of Jennings. Now, it's reported that when these bodies were found, it's shown that there was an active attempt to have these bodies unidentifiable once found. And it's also suggested that whoever placed these bodies in these extremely remote locations was very familiar with the local terrain due to how specific these locations were and also how hard they were to get to. Off the bat, this case sounds like any of our other cases. Sure, a group of women unfortunately were killed and went missing because they lived in unfortunate situations and were vulnerable to
Now, if they all had connections, that makes me think of like Dexter or something. If they're all looking for the same police station, ooh, Because if you're a police informant, it's a little different. Like, but yeah.
Past that were looking to kill innocent people. But once you look deeper into this case, you realize that while there very likely could have been a serial killer who killed these 8 women, it's also very highly suspected that there was some police involvement. And the theories on the involvement of these police varies drastically. Some people believe that the local authorities not only executed the planning, killing, and hiding of these women's bodies, while others suspect that the local police were simply complicit in the situation and didn't put much effort into investigating the situation simply because of who the victims were. Now, whether you believe that the Jeff Davis 8 killer was a single serial killer or potentially a group of people involved in law enforcement, the same conclusion can be drawn. Nobody has ever been charged for the murders of these 8 women, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like anybody ever will, which means that the lunatic or lunatics who killed these 8 women are definitely on the loose and walking among us today. To me, this is another case that just rings so odd because there was literally 8 murders that took place over 4 years in super modern history. Like, we're talking 2005 to 2009. Like, the technology wasn't where it is now, but it was definitely advanced enough to have some progress on this. So the fact that 8 murders can take place in 4 years in the exact same place and nothing ever comes of it is extremely suspicious, which is why, for that reason, I don't think that looking more closely at law enforcement is a bad idea. And if you watch some of the documentaries or read some of the books about the situation, then you'll definitely get a deeper perspective on the potential law enforcement involvement. The West Mesa Bone Collector. The year is 2009. You are an active outdoorsman, and this time you decide that something that could be fun to try is testing your survival skills in the middle of the desert. And that's when you—
Oh my god, did you hear about that guy? This was like 2010 maybe. And he's an inventor, and he also like goes out into the wild. Oh, he's not posting on the internet anymore, but he was a YouTuber. And he was out in the wild, and he found this like strange cave, and he said he like when he got near it, he started like not convulsing, but like being violently nauseous and like shaky, and so he went back and to go to it with like a gun and his like he would just brought like a gun and his phone. And he didn't record it, and then he went missing. And like the most obvious answer, because he didn't take his phone to video it, was that he killed himself. But which is very sad. Like he was in the shits because he was an inventor. But the most obvious answer is that he killed himself. Some people said he was like a government cave, and then he went missing, and then he just faked the whole story. Some people said that he like just like committed identity fraud. Not an identity fraud. He just like faked his own death. But then there was this guy in like 2018 that went, and he was like, I'm gonna try and go find him, or like find the cave. And he went and he got to the cave, and he's like, oh, it was the M cave. It was Kenny Veach in the M cave. That was his name, Kenny Veach, the guy that went missing. And so he was like, okay, I'll go to this M cave. It sounds really interesting. This guy in like 2018. And he goes to it, and he was like, oh yeah, this could be the one that Kenny Veach goes. This is like a small time YouTube creator. He goes, he walks away from it, throws up all over the desert. Like he's throwing up for 10 seconds straight. It is actually so disgusting. And he's like, has such a pulsing headache. He's like dazed. But yeah, I thought that was a crazy story when I heard it.
Decide to try living off the land in Albuquerque's West Mesa. You spend your first day on the trip hiking and getting familiar with the landscape, until, while hiking through a mesa, you see something sticking out of the ground. It doesn't look like a flower or cactus, and as you get closer, you realize that this is a bone, but it doesn't look like any animal bone you've ever seen. And you realize that what you're looking at is a human bone. Immediately, you call the authorities, and within hours, the police have not only dug up one body, they've actually dug up the remains of 11 women and girls. The West Mesa Bone Collector is, first of all, just an insane name to give a serial killer, and second of all, one of the most infamous unsolved cases in modern history. It's unnerving how recent some of these cases are and how little information is actually available. In the case of the West Mesa Bone Collector, the bodies were discovered in 2009. However, it's believed that the murders took place from 2001 until 2005. following the unfortunate trend
Holy
already
shit.
evident in this video, all of the victims of the West Mesa bone collector were women. But not only were they women, some of these women were sex workers, and some of them were just struggling with homelessness and addiction. But definitely most saddening of all is some of these women weren't even women at all. Out of all of these 11 victims, well, technically 12, one was a 15-year-old girl and one was an unborn child. Because all of the bodies were skeletal remains by the time they were finally found, authorities were not able to determine a definitive cause of death, although they did say that trauma on the body was evident. And while the murder methods of the Mesa killer are unfortunately unknown, the one consistent variable in the situation is the method of hiding the bodies. Every single one of these 11 bodies was hidden in the
That's always the
exact
same.
location.
Just because it's like, I do not want to say that it's an art, but like, it's just, it's a really hard thing to do that you can do in different ways. And so once you master it, I think it's most easier to just stay doing the exact same way that you always do.
With the bodies being wrapped and then placed underground in an active effort to make sure these bodies were never found. And while the bodies were eventually found, the killer never was. At least not yet. And once again, this is another upsetting situation of potential mismanagement from the authorities. Because seriously, how do at least 11 women go missing in 4 years without anybody saying anything? And then when all of these women are found in the exact same location, even then, nothing is then known or discovered for the next 20 years. It's so disheartening.
Facts.
And I didn't mean for this
That's
to be a
really
bummer.
bad.
It was kind of supposed to be scary, but I guess with this sort of situation, it, well, comes with the territory. But regardless, with these murders taking place only from 2001 to 2005, it is extremely likely that the killer who executed these murders is still alive today and walking among us. The Way of Death. It's basically a 136-mile stretch of a federal highway that since 2022...
I know a guy that drove across this and he almost died. Friend of my dad's ex-girlfriend's dad did this, and they almost died like 3 times.
Has seen the death of at least 71 individuals who have been provably murdered. Beyond these 71 proven murders on this highway, there's believed to be over 200 potential murders that have taken place on this highway.
Oh, I'm for sure there's been hundreds. For sure. Because it's the cartel. It's all about the cartel. And what they usually do is it's a lot less murders than it is just like you're invested with the cartel. So it's a lot easier to avoid. Because if you're not invested with the cartel, then you have a lot higher chance of not being murdered by them. But also, like, they sometimes kidnap like tourists, and then they'll call their families and be like, they'll hold them for ransom. So they'll say like, oh, if you don't give me $2 million, I won't give your kid back. And they're in the middle of Mexico where the cops don't do shit, so it's like, it doesn't really matter. And there's a big wall because fucking Trump, because that's just great. So they get pretty much completely protected until you give them $2 million. And it's rare that they ever get the child back without paying. And it's even more rare that they actually convict the ransomer.
2020 and the number
because the cartel has a bigger military force than the entire government of Mexico.
Is
that is a real fact.
It's not necessarily believed that only one serial killer is responsible for all these murders, and authorities believe that this is most likely the work of cartels. But they have explicitly said that they are not writing off lone criminals to also be responsible for some of the murders that have
It is cartels. That is propaganda. I will stand on this shit till the day I die. It is all cartels. It is cartels, because the cartel has like so much military. Have you seen the videos? See if I can find the YouTube videos where it's like the cartel. No, I can't find it. Anyways, it's like you go, there's like a bunch of cartel cars, and they're decked out in like Humvees and shit.
Taking place on this highway.
Wild.
Meaning that if anything, this stretch of highway is not home to just one serial killer, but multiple. 18 different individuals who were attacked on the highway and survived all claimed that they were abducted by armed men and tortured before being released or escaping. And while no motivation is given.
And the strat, so here's a little bit of life advice. The strat that they do to get you is they throw those, like, it's like a dark road, and they have like those tire spikes, the shit that pops your tires, and they just have them in the road, and they're hiding in bushes. And so if you drive over them, your car, obviously, you lose your tires in your car, and so you the car stops, and then you get out and you try and fix it, and they kill you. Or you get out of your car to try and remove it, and they torture you and kill you. So the best move to do is just turn to the right, huck a Yui, and drive away as fast as you can. That's the only way that you could possibly avoid, like, not getting murdered by these guys.
Beyond that, it further adds to the theory that cartel intervention is happening. Although, if the cartel are
Yup.
doing this, begs the question of what is their motivation? Just because somebody's a member of the cartel, that doesn't mean that they're not a rogue serial killer on their off time. Another ongoing situation that's taking place not in Mexico.
No, but even if they are, that doesn't matter, because if you have cartel connections and if you have known cartel connections, which most people do, the police ain't gonna do shit. Even American police, because they will get murdered. They will get actually tortured, beaten, murdered, and ransomed. So you cannot touch the cartel. Do not touch the cartel.
But in Canada is known as the Highway of Tears. On the
I've been on this highway. Yep, it's very sad. It is so sad. It is very terrible. Something needs to be done. I hope we'll elaborate on the police, like, not doing anything
Highway
about it.
16 in Canada from 1970 up until the modern day, like right now, over 80
Yup.
women and girls, primarily indigenous women and girls, have been murdered or have gone.
Almost all women and girls. It's the same. So it's like in Canada, the same amount of like non-indigenous women and girls are killed. But along the Highway of Tears, it's almost all indigenous women. And like it obviously there's more indigenous women being murdered in Canada than non-indigenous women, because when indigenous women get killed, police don't do shit because they're not white. So that's
while
very
walking
sad.
the side of this highway. With this string of murders ongoing now for over 50 years, it is believed that murdering innocent people on this highway has become more or less of a multi-generational tradition among seriously twisted individuals. And it's believed that not one, but many individuals have killed innocent women on this highway for a plethora of disturbing reasons. Going right back down to Mexico, we're discussing the toy car murderers. This is once again not necessarily one killer, but a group of killers who live in Sinaloa. These murders took place from 2019 to 2023 and still may be ongoing to this day. They have 5 proven victims and 6 possible victims. And this killer or group of killers are known as the toy car killers because they are specifically targeting car thieves. Yeah, like this is some Dexter stuff.
Huh.
These individuals are identifying car
shit.
thieves, shooting them in the head, leaving them for dead, and leaving toy cars on their body as a calling card. Authorities believe that this is some form of vigilante justice, and the actions are being taken out by either.
That is not vigilante justice. That would be serial killer. Vigilante justice is going to a car thief and beating the shit out of them and leaving a toy car. And saying to never do that again and like stealing their shit. This is not vigilante justice, because in no way are they doing a good thing. You know what I mean? Like, even beating the shit out of car thieves is not always the best option. You should not always do that, you know?
One person or a group of organized people, all with the same hatred of car thieves. Having a serial killing calling card in 2023 is some seriously diabolical stuff. And don't get me wrong, stealing someone's car is really messed up. But if you're going to create an organized crime murder vigilante justice group, I feel like there are probably other crimes you could go after rather than.
Yeah, there's a lot worse crimes than car thieves, because most car thieves do not get away from it. It is so hard to steal a car because they're being constantly tracked. You have a license plate. That person probably took a picture of your license plate. Many people probably took a picture of your license plate because you're in a fucking black ski mask. It is so hard to get away with stealing a car. And then once you steal a car, what the fuck are you gonna do with it? Drive it? Then you steal a car once? Not a lot of car thieves then. And then most people just break it down for scrap parts. And then it's like, oh, well, you break it down for scrap parts. Then that place that breaks it down and sells it has all your information on that car. Has every information on that car. They have that tracking number, the serial number of the car, so you can report that in. And it's so hard for a car thief to get away with it.
Car thieves, but that's just my 2 cents. Not advocating for vigilante justice or murder, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like there's probably other things you could be more motivated by, but
Facts.
Heading over to the States, we have the Little Rock serial stabbings. From 2020 to 2021, there were 3 confirmed fatal stabbings in Little Rock, Arkansas. All 3 of these stabbings were believed to be committed by the same person, and unfortunately, there is absolutely no information about who was stabbing these people and why they were stabbing these people. Authorities are actively investigating.
But was this also like a spree murderer? This could be like a spree murderer, you know? You have no idea.
And hopefully justice and answers are brought forward soon. Jumping over to Pakistan, we have the Jankil grave. In 2020, a grave containing the bodies of 4 teenage boys was found. One of these boys was decapitated, one of them was shot, and 2 of them were stoned to death. The only connection
Ooh.
between all of these bodies were the fact that they were buried in the same place. But beyond that, nobody knows who killed these boys, why they killed them, or when this even happened. The situation has been going since 2020, and minimal updates have been provided since then. There has been numerous protests in Pakistan demanding justice for these young boys, but unfortunately, answers or justice have
Holy
not been given
shit.
yet. And this killer, along with all others, are still at large. Heading over to Mali, of all places, we have the Fana beheadings.
What do you mean, of all places? There's a lot of killings in Africa. There's a lot of killings.
Which took place from 2018 to 2022 when 10 confirmed individuals were beheaded in a ritualistic decapitation. Upon investigation, it was confirmed that none of these victims had anything in common, and their heads were eventually found separately, but all of these bodies had their blood drained, which is why it was believed these bodies were used for ritualistic
for sure. It's
purposes. Since these murders investigation.
That is so fucked up. That is so fucked up. Okay. Hot take. Sacrificing a goat isn't all that bad. Okay? You can sacrifice a goat. You can even sacrifice a cat. I love cat. That's in my YouTube description. I own a cat. You could sacrifice a bunny rabbit. You could sacrifice cow. Yeah. Horse. Yeah. Human. Fuck no. Actually, do not do that shit. Now, I know I'm saying don't murder people, like that's something that you guys would do, but like, it's just so fucked up. It's so fucked up.
Investigations have been ongoing and updates have been minimal. However, these murders did shock the region of Africa, and the UN has actively inserted themselves in the situation to try to, quote, continue to make sustained efforts to protect civilians. And for the final entry on this entire list, we have a man named Vampire, a Kenyan serial killer who was active from 2022 to 2024, and in that time killed a confirmed 42 women. Vampire is a 33-year-old Kenyan man in Nairobi, and after his 42 woman killing spree from 2022 to 2024,
Holy
he actually
42
was arrested, but shortly after being arrested, escaped custody and has not been heard from or seen since. It is believed by some in Kenya that the police actively aided in the escape of the serial killer, which is extremely disheartening if true.
That is
As we conclude
terrible.
this video, I do just want to make a quick reminder that everything I discussed in this video is real. These are real victims with real families and real friends and real lives destroyed and ruined and taken. I try my absolute best to make these videos informative and respectful. Besides that, I want to say thank you guys for enjoying, and I hope you have a safe...
Wow, that was a W video. I'm gonna go get some food, and then probably just gonna do some enlisted or some rivals after I run some source code.